Thank you for being with us tonight for our virtual event titled, How is Palo Alto Upgrading Our Electrical Grid for an All-Electric Future? This is a League of Women Voters of Palo Alto promotion, informational. I am Nancy Shepard. I'm co-president with Judy Kleinberg this year for the League of Women Voters in Palo Alto. The League has a vision of a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. We are a nonpartisan political organization that encourages information and active participation of citizens in government through education. We are membership-based and invite all of you over the age of 16 to become a member by going to our website, lwvpaloalto.org. Our organization has two distinct roles. One is advocacy of public policy issues that we have studied. The other is voter services, bringing voters impartial information on ballot initiatives and candidates. So let's get to it tonight. I'd like to introduce Hillary Glenn. She is our team leader for climate change. Welcome, Hillary.
Thank you, Nancy. Let me bring up my slides. I want to welcome everyone to our event tonight. And I want to give you just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Nancy has already done her intro. The housekeeping basically is that we will provide you recording and slides after the event. We ask you tonight to please, instead of putting your questions in the chat or the Q&A, to either scan this form or go to bit.ly/electric-questions, and that will enable us to get all the questions and answered. We'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. And this little bit.ly thing will pop up again. So if you missed it, don't worry, we'll get it again. So with that, I'd like to introduce and give you a bio on our first speaker. That is Director Dean Batchelor. He has served in Palo Alto Utilities Department for approximately 15 years. He was appointed to Utilities Director in 2019, where he had previously served as the Chief Operating Officer since 2016. He started with the city in 2008 as the Assistant Director of Utility. Dean earned his degree in Business Administration at Cal State Long Beach and has over 40 years of experience in power, water, gas, wastewater, and telecommunications in both investor-owned and municipal environments. Work is very important to Dean because Dean enjoys doing things that either help someone or potentially change someone's life, even in a small way. Dean's experience includes 17 years with PG&E, where he served as the Corporate Director for Field Services Training. And after that, Dean worked with Alameda Power and Telecom, where he was the Assistant General Manager of Operations. So, Dean, wonderful to have you here. Please take it away.
Thank you, Hillary, and thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. It's a pleasure to get this opportunity to speak to all of you. Go to my slides, please. So the city conducted a high-level electrification study to evaluate the impacts of the projected electrification loads on Palo Alto's distribution, substation, transformers, the primary, secondary. You go to the first page, please. Distribution circuits and proposed upgrades needed to migrate these loads. The estimated cost to construct the necessary electric system and upgrade to 100% electrification scenario is between $300 and $350 million. Now, you have to think about that. This system hasn't been touched since 1970s, in the early 70 portions. It was made as a one-way feed. The average peak demand for the average home in Palo Alto is between 3 and 3.5 kVAs. Once we get done building this brand new system, it'll have capabilities between 6 and 8 kVA, which is once we get to the point where we can actually start thinking about having 100% electrification. And also that includes your EVs. Given the hundreds of miles of overhead and underground construction activities between our fiber project, and I'll talk a little bit more about our fiber project here along with this, but between the fiber project and electric grid modernization, the pilots and staff to explore various construction phases options to minimize disruption in construction activities and construction costs. So the system is made up of about 70% overhead, 30% underground. And there are quite a few circuits that run in parallel in the backyards. So you have a pole line that's in your backyard. You may be having the pole in your yard, but it also impacts your neighbor from the other side of your fence. So one of the thought processes that we've been looking at is that, do we want to disrupt you when we have to go back and replace that pole once, maybe twice? We're actually going to have to then put on new equipment. We're going to have to run fiber. We're going to put up new transformers, new secondary on the pole. That seems like that's just an awful lot of inconvenience to folks that have these backyard easements. And staff doesn't really have enough internal resources to project both of these large projects. This, as I mentioned, is touching every piece of the system on the electric side. And as we move forward with fiber, we thought that it make more sense to actually look at, see if there's some synergies and savings. We are going to have to replace poles. We're going to have to grow poles. And we just don't have the resources to kind of be spreading out to look at make ready, making sure it's within compliant as it gets built. Later in this presentation, I'll show you an area where we actually are starting our portion of it. One of the things that, as I mentioned, distribution transformers and secondary conduit conductors have to be replaced. So you see that those round items that are sitting on the pole that look something like a garbage can, those are transformers that are up in the air today. We need to make those larger in size-wise so that we can get to this peak demand of 7 kVAs. And then also we need to do substation transformer upgrades. That is going to be towards the end. Our substations are in pretty good shape at this period of time, but it's something that we know that it's going to have to be touched. So with that, our next slide. So talking a little bit about the load mitigation portion of it, we did do a complete study on the cost effectiveness and of the system here in 23. We did a complete study of it. It was on kind of a high level, as I mentioned. And we are in the process of designing and implementing this reliability project that's going to take somewhere between 24 through 2032. Now our goal is 30. And as I mentioned, the last part of this project portion of it will be actually dealing with the substation areas, which we know that are fine today, but we think that maybe we might have to do some extra work. So our timeline goal is from 2024 to 2032. Now, one of the advantages of rebuilding the system and making kind of it in a two-way system is, as technologies are developed to upgrade, we can adjust to incorporate these new technologies. You know, I think the thing is that some of you may have seen during these past winters, or maybe winters in the past, reliability hasn't been all that good. You know, this system will be able to be a lot more reliable just because it's just fairly brand new, but also too, it has new technology that we will be using. Now, I look at reliability and resiliency a little different. You know, my feeling is that I've read the article, and I'm sure most of you have, from Vermont Power, where they are in the process of giving everybody a battery, and they're calling it good. So that's great on the you know, the resiliency. You'll have a battery at your home, but what happens to the system itself if you have more and more outages all the time, the system is not working properly, that's a problem. So our model that we decided to model off of is basically looking at the rebuilding the entire system, and then also looking at new technologies that are going to be out there. One of the things that we are looking at, and I'll go into this more in depth, is just some of the tools that we're going to be able to use as we move forward in this rebuild. Next slide. So these are kind of the tasks so far. Convert an overhead system from a 4 kV to a 12 kV. So we actually have some system areas out there that are running on a very lower voltage line, which is what we call 4 kV. They have to be upgraded to a 12 kV. And we are in the process of doing that. And that is the first area that I'll discuss later about why we chose the area that we chose on our map. Where it should be done was that we were going to have to touch this, because there was no way that there was any capability or capacity in that area to do any of this. It is an overhead and an underground area. And then also too is that we wanted to, this is fairly close to where our Colorado sub is, which is our main sub. And the increasing of the substation system capacity is actually right fairly close to where this area that's being rebuilt. So again, cost-effective technology to reduce that peak load and improve the reliability on the system. So this is just talking about the overhead on the upground, the residential circuits, and that area for the overhead section. So we have, like I mentioned, there's about 70% of our system is overhead, and that will be constructed completely by 2027. So again, going around the underground system, it's difficult to upgrade the requirements for transformer locations. So one of the problems that we see today in undergrounding, I know that most of you probably read the article in the paper some weeks ago about our undergrounding capabilities. I can assure you that we are working through this, but I can also assure you that this is one of the most difficult situations to deal with because nobody wants to have a green box in front of their home. Nobody wants to have that transformer that's going to sit directly on your property line on your front of your home. And so everybody wants it moved down the street. But there's limitations when you look at the engineering of how far you can actually move those transformers. So that is a problem. The last underground section that we rebuilt, it took us almost 3 years to get it done. And that was because of working with the residents, getting them to buy into the idea that this piece of equipment is going to be above ground now. And that, yes, it takes out the poles, but most of our homes in Palo Alto are on zero lot lines where you're right up against your neighbor. So someone is going to have to have that green box that's going to sit there. Added capacity to the underground systems by upgrading the transformer and secondary systems. As I mentioned earlier, the secondary systems, which is the power that your home is connected to. So if you look at the pole to the left, at the very tip top, those are the high voltage lines. Those are 12,000 volts that carry there. And then underneath the transformers take that high voltage and actually lower it down to a working voltage of 240, 220 volts that actually come into our homes. So that's the secondary side. It is way too small to try to cover and to carry the increased loads. So we know that we have a lot of secondary that needs to be replaced. And that's in the same thing as within the underground section. We're expecting to start designing the construction of that last 30% of the underground in 26, and construction will be completed by 2030. the hope in this is that we will not be able, or we will not be cutting up streets and adding new conduits. We're hoping what we can do is we can actually take out the old secondary. If we have to replace any kind of primary, pull those out of the conduits that are already in place, and then go ahead and just bring in brand new cables, and then rehook up the residents as we move down the street. So that's our hope. Our hope is not to cut into the streets and disrupt anything that that we don't have to get into. So next. As I mentioned earlier, we need to add some capacity to our substations. We know that our substations are in fairly good shape, but we don't know what that demand is going to look like 100% from now. We are doing some modeling and some studying on that. We're also installing circuit ties. So the way the system was built was that they what we call feeder lines, and they're the main lines that run from the substations all the way out to the end of a run that might have about 2,000 homes on that one run. And so if there's an outage that occurs, could be a tree in the line, it could be a bad piece of equipment, sometimes that will relay all the way back to the substation, and it shuts the whole entire feeder down. So let's just say that house number 500 was where the cause of the damage was. You would think that 1 through 499 would still be on. It doesn't happen that way. The way that the system reacts now is that it takes out the whole line from that point out. So these circuit ties, we are going to be putting these in so that we can cut that down. I mean, one of the things is going to be most frustrating to all of us is that if we are building this system brand new, have all this resiliency, and it just continues to shut down, and we have these large outages of 2,000-3,000 customers, that is not a good situation. So these ties will actually cut down the smaller, so that if there was an outage, they would only have, maybe what you can do is you'll only have the first 200 customers that are out. And the rest of the system the rest of that run will be on. So it's important that we update that. Again, design and construction is going to be in late 27. And then we did put this in here. The design for the installing of the circuit ties will be done by 2030, because that's part of the upgrades. But the substation piece might take us a couple extra years on that. So here's our project line. Project line was basically from Q1 of 23 to get engineering drawings done, get a RFP that we could put out there on the streets to actually start working on that 4 kV line. Our upgrade to our overhead services is going to basically start here at the end of November timeline. And then the underground, as I mentioned, starts in the design phase in 26. And then our substation capacity ties and everything else is going to happen then in the design of the 24. And we're hoping to be complete, but I'm not sure if we're going to make the 2030 on the capacity on the substation. But again, I can assure you that we have enough capacity today as we move forward with that. Next. So again, the project's been budgeted from FY23 to through 27. We did find out today, so this is actually breaking news here, is that we had put in for 2 large grants. And we had asked for $100 million to put towards the grid mod. And we asked for a $20 million on our AMI project. And we found out today, unfortunately, that we were turned down on both those grants. The one for the distribution and construction. The large one, the $100 million, only 20% of the folks that applied actually got some type of money. So we are going to start looking at doing a little bit of bond financing, looking at other ways of how we're going to pay for this $300 to $350 million monster that's going to be in front of us. We are going to resubmit. They have these grants come open every year. We are due a letter back to us in November that's telling us where we weren't maybe as competitive as some of these other rural areas. I can tell you that most of these areas were mostly in the Midwest and East Coast. Most of them, from what I read today, were because of hurricanes, damages, the ice storms that they get back there. There was one rural city that hasn't touched their system since 1950 and it's falling apart. They put in for that and they received a $40 million grant. So we're going to do some more studying on this once we get our letter, and we'll figure out what we need to do, but we will resubmit for matching grid reels and innovation funds. Next. So I just wanted to kind of break this into this piece here, into this, is that, I gotta hurry up here. So we have an AMI project with advanced metering and infrastructure. It kind of looks, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. So basically, this is part of the whole resilience that I was talking about. So the advantages are going to be is that once we launch and we get this fully up and running, we've got about 5,000 meters out there. We do have a supply chain problem that we were trying to work on to get more electric meters in. But this is going to be the thing that when I look at resiliency, you know, I'd be lying to you if I told you I build this brand new plant for us and there's never going to be an event on it. If I told you that, I'd be lying to all of you. But the thing is, when I look at resiliency, is what can we do to quicker respond to that outage or to that situation? What can we do to get you back in power as soon as possible? Well, this AMI metering set is part of that resiliency that will be able to do that. They're smart meters. What we do is we ping an area. We can tell if the outage is at the very end or at the very beginning or in the middle. So that is moving forward as we speak. There's also too, is that from the resiliency piece just adopted on the 13th, there's a battery electric vehicle supply and being bi-directional. So all cars by 27, all cars manufactured must have bi-directional capability. So if there is an outage, small battery, hook it through to your home and you'll be able to have some power in your home for a period of time. So, and then the other one, the larger map that you see there is really basically about the fiber and how we're stringing that. So if I go to the last page real quick, sorry. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the red block. The red block basically is from Bayshore, which is arrow. Yeah. So stay right there. So that's Embarcadero. And we are coming down to Lewis Road, which is the long piece. And then you have Embarcadero as the other long piece. And that's the other one is Colorado. And that's where our substation is located at. That is the pilot area. That represents about 2,700 homes. And that's where that 4 kV issue is. And that's where we're going to launch our fiber. The blue line represents how we're going to build out the rest of fiber as well as for any of the electric grid that we'll be doing. And that's about 6,500 homes in that area there. So with that, I think I am, wait, yeah. So with that, thank you very much for coming and listening and taking time out of your busy nights. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight, Hillary. Thank you very much.
Great. It looks like we're We're now able to save and cut and paste in the chat. So hopefully everybody can see that now, and that is working. And apologies for that as a issue previously. Let me just introduce our next speaker. And you'll notice on the screen, for those of you who hadn't heard before, we're asking you to put your questions into a bit.ly form. It's https bit.ly/electric-questions, or you can even, while I do the Tom introduction, you can use your phone to and go directly to the site questions. Really appreciate you doing that. We're getting a lot of questions and have someone working very hard to have them organized. So this is helping a lot if you can put your questions in there. All right, without any further ado, let me introduce Tom Kabat. He is a well-known name in Palo Alto and throughout the Peninsula area. He's an energy engineer and former environmental quality commissioner for the city of Menlo Park. Tom has more than 40 years of diverse energy experience since starting in the utility programs and resource planning at the city of Palo Alto Utilities prior to resuming consulting. Some of Tom's recent projects include assisting 2 electrification design development studies for 15 homes, completing a DIY electrification of his own home. That would have been fun to see, Tom, while assisting with others, developing electrification training for contractors and developing tools, guides, and processes for wallet-friendly, panel-friendly, I'll say planet-friendly as well, grid-friendly electrification. Tom, please take it away.
All right. Thanks so much, Hillary. And let me try to share screen here. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that. And hopefully you can hear me. All right. So why make an electrification plan? I'm going to be talking a little bit about a plan and the alternatives, but the reason to make an electrification plan is just to be sure you can get all your needs met and get them organized and meet them in the low-cost way. And so really, when we're talking about making an electrification plan, it's all about right-sizing things and picking efficient equipment. And so you want to get the right-sized heat pump water heater. That's what HPWH means. I prefer advising people towards larger tank sizes, more gallons of stored hot water, so you get more hot water delivery during hot water rush hour, and that makes you happy. And then lower power needs. So not using big resistors to try to heat it up, but using the compressor. And they've been making more of these heat pump water heater models that just rely on the compressor and maybe very small or no resistor. It's still okay to put in a larger wire size and breaker size to leave a future occupant kind of some future proofing where they can upsize from what we decide. And then the next thing is on heat pump. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, that's what HVAC stands for. Getting the right size of that equipment and picking the more efficient equipment that has lower power needs while it keeps you comfortable. These heat pumps are dual purpose. They're able to heat you in the winter and cool you in the summer using the same equipment, and it uses a reversing valve. So during the summer, it's like an air conditioner. It's just pumping heat out of the house to the even hotter outdoors. And during the winter, it gathers heat from the cool outdoors, raises that heat to a nice warm temperature, and delivers it into the home. So that's a two-way device. And then so you're getting double duty out of that thing. The other thing to pick is a clothes dryer type and the power needs for it. And we're all familiar with the electric resistance clothes dryer that's pretty much running a toaster element inside your dryer, a couple big powerful toaster elements trying to heat the air there and cook your clothes till they're dry and vent that outdoors. But there are new types of clothes dryers, like combined machines that do the washing and the drying on 120 volt plug in the wall circuit. Saves about $10,000 worth of floor space and only goes in one circuit, so it doesn't need its own circuit. That frees up a circuit to charge the car. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that's coming out these days is cooktops that go in the counter. There's one being developed that'll have a battery associated with it. some of us have wall ovens. Those need their own circuit, and there are combined ranges that slide in. That's got an oven and a cooktop all in one. Using that all-in-one type device saves circuits, so I don't have to have a separate circuit to the wall oven. And somebody's made now a combined range that also has a built-in battery, so it gets by on the little 120-volt clock circuit that's behind our electric ranges, and so it doesn't need its own new power supply. So those are some of the ways we go about, picking the efficient things. And then when it comes to EV charger size, most people kind of overdo that by quite a bit. Turns out a 20 amp circuit for the car charging will give you 39,000 miles a year if you're charging 8 hours a day. And you don't need the 50 amp size, which gives you something around 100,000 miles a year. Who's got time to drive that far? So I've just told you about a plan, and then one question I would come up with is, can I get by without a plan? And the answer is yes, if you just do the right things anyway. And so that's possible just by guiding yourself down to the efficient, low power, right size of each of the devices you pick to do your electrification. Then you just make each decision right, and you didn't have to have a plan. And so that's one way to circumvent it. And so here's an example now of, I was talking with Cooper the other day at a conference, and I was saying, hey, what if we could just make a small electrification plan on a postcard? And here's a small one. It's a reversible 120 volt list plan. And so I'm just saying, to meet these 5 end use needs for hot water, I'd recommend these 120 volt shared circuit water heaters sized big, like 65 or 80 gallons. I'd recommend these 120 volt window heat pumps or portable heat pumps that you can take with you, even if you're a renter. Or now there's a saddlebag window heat pump that's inverter driven and nice and quiet. There also are portable inverter driven heat pumps that use 2 hoses out the window, and what it does is gather cold air from the outdoors and grab even more heat out of it and put out colder air back outdoors again in the winter. Those are available at about $600 or $700 these days from the store. Then I mentioned this battery enabled induction range. Those are pretty pricey right now at about $6,000, but they qualify for tax credits because the battery is so big on them. And then there's this combination washer dryer machine. I'll show you a picture. I think I've got one later, but they free up the circuit and can be plugged in yourself. And then the portable EV charger that comes with your EV, it's probably in the trunk. And so it might be, part of the EV cost, or you can buy another one for a couple $100. But that's an idea of a portable plan. There's more elaborate plans for making your needs, meeting your needs on a bigger scale. And so my partner Josie Gaylord and I have helped make a number of those, and Cooper and his company make those. There's a few other folks out there doing that as well. But we basically look at the electric code and look at your existing appliances and needs and your utility usage for the peak hours of the year, and try to figure out how to meet all those needs. And then we also have been publishing guides available through Redwood Energy Partners, sponsored by Menlo Spark. And these guides help people figure out the ways to electrify on their existing panels. And then, the question's always coming up, is my panel big enough? It looks kind of full. And the answer is generally yes. And we find, you just have to try harder up to 3,000 square feet to fit it on a 100 amp panel with car charging. And so it's doable. It's pretty easy. A lot of our panels are pretty underloaded as it is, but there's 2 issues. One is the electrical capacity for amps, or we can also talk about watts, which are proportional to amps, or the physical capacity to fit the breakers in. But both problems are solvable. And this panel optimization works. It's helping people save $5,000 to $30,000. The small numbers when you've got overhead lines, and it wouldn't cost that much to upsize your electric panel. Maybe $3,000 to $5,000. And the higher numbers are when you've got underground trenching that has to happen to make a bigger service wire. That's what they call the wire coming to your house. But homes with 60 amp panels, we're finding are generally those panels are a bit small for our opulent lifestyles here in the Bay Area. So we tend to recommend upsizing to 100 amps or bigger for those. This is a little bit of data from our San Mateo County study. The blue bars in the bottom are the percent of the panel utilization by the peak hour or 15 minutes of the whole year on that house. And the top of the green bar is the panel capacity. These to the left are the 10 homes in the study that were starting out as mixed fuel homes. And some of them had electric vehicles already. And then the two on the right are Josie's home and my home, where we're fully electric now and still down there. My house is fully electric and the peak is under 5 kilowatts. A 100 amp panel could give me 24 kilowatts, almost 5 times as much. How do we do it? So this is a graph showing on the bottom axis down here, these numbers are 0 to 12,000 watts. So 0 to 12 kilowatts of, in this case, I've called it transformer watts, but it's essentially service line watts, with the EV and heat pump both counted as a 100% coincident with the peak, and the other loads counted as 40% coincident. So here I've got these 5 end-use categories: drying clothes, cooking, water heating, space heat and cool, and driving. So here are 5 ways to meet your drying needs. And the one I like doesn't add any more to the panel load. It's the combined washer, condensing, or heat pump dryer in one machine. So it's on the washer plug. So that's what frees it up. And here's the regular electric resistance dryer that you're more familiar with. In between are hybrid ones that are part resistance, part heat pump, or condensing or heat pump. Going to cooking, here's that 120 volt plug-in battery range way down there, hardly sipping, just sipping power, versus going to a full cooktop and a double wall oven, which logs in on the panel calculations for your code compliance at over 4,000 watts. So it's taking up more panel space to do that. For hot water, here are the new 120 volt heat pump water heaters that are coming out that plug into the wall, versus where we started with heat pump water heaters, which was these 30 amp versions, which have big resistance elements for backup inside the water heater. Oops, let me try to go back. There we go. Now down to space heating and cooling. I've shown 2 3-ton heat pumps. A ton is 12,000 BTUs per hour. That's a thermal power rating. And the bottom bar is less efficient. It has one of these efficiencies, HSPF, they call it, of 8.5. So it uses more power, shown in blue. And then the other thing to avoid being talked into are resistance backup strips in the air handler of these heat pumps. You used to need those in the 1950s and 60s heat pumps, but I don't recommend getting a 1960 heat pump anymore. You ought to get one of the new 2020 heat pumps and beyond, which use the compressor. They just rev it up to better speeds and they get all that heating out of the compressor itself instead of going to resistance. And then shown here down at the bottom are, 7 sizes of circuits going to charge an EV, and the different numbers of miles you can get. Just that regular plug in the wall one that comes with the car and can plug into any outlet in your garage gives you about 13,000 miles a year if you're charging 8 hours a day. So, that's kind of equal to or a little greater than the average person's driving distance. And then the thing I end up recommending often to clients is going with a 240 volt, 20 amp circuit that's giving them 108 miles a day or 39,000 miles a year if they're charging 8 hours a day on a 20 amp circuit flowing 16 amps of power. You can use the big 50 amp wire on that circuit. The circuit breaker can hold it. Just use the 20 amp breaker and the 20 amp setting. Then you've gone panel gentle. And you've also left more capacity on the transformers for your neighbors to electrify before Dean gets there by 2030. This will help us all electrify a lot more things faster without needing to go to the panel. Excuse me. Yes.
I think you have like maybe negative 30 seconds.
All right. So I will close up here. I just wanted to let you see the slides. Look for the slides. It'll show 7 ways to free up the panel amps and 11 ways to free up panel space. Thanks so much.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And everyone, we will of this and all of Tom's slides, and we're going to have a Q&A very shortly. Hang on one second before you jump in. I'm not going to, does everyone, I assume everyone has now figured out how to get their questions into the forum. If you haven't, please go ahead and ask again, and I'll put the link in again. But it looks like we're getting a lot of questions in, so I think that problem has been solved, and hopefully also the ability to save the chat. So let me just briefly introduce Cooper, and then Cooper, you can jump in with your slides. You can start sharing now if you'd like, but Cooper Marcus is the chief quitter at Quit Carbon. Quit Carbon helps gain the confidence and clarity they need to electrify their homes, and helps contractors grow their businesses by being part of the clean energy transition. Cooper believes that society's move away from fossil fuel presents an incredible opportunity to respond to the climate crisis while improving the quality for homeowners, renters, and the small businesses that help maintain their homes. Cooper recently spent 2.5 years at PG&E guiding the development of an industry-leading wildfire risk machine learning model. Try saying that 3 times fast. That is used to prioritize over $1 billion in annual spending on risk reduction. Cooper has a BA in environmental studies with a focus on urban planning from UC Santa Cruz, and an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University, where he was awarded top student in technology and e-commerce. Cooper, take it away.
Wow. I did all that. And I'm born and raised in San Francisco, and I love the San Francisco Bay Area and our beautiful state and this planet. And I think that we can do it. We can respond, and we're enabled by the Inflation Reduction Act. Happy first birthday. I missed it by a week or two here, but this is amazing because we are transitioning our homes from fossil fuels to clean electricity supplied by your incredible municipal utility. And it is the #1 way, the single biggest way that we individually act against climate change. Now, electrifying, fundamentally, it's not optional. If you own a home, when you own a home, you own the appliances within it. And in the past, the fossil past, we would change our gas appliances for gas appliances. But now we have an incredible opportunity to upgrade from gas to electric. 67 million homes across the US, including yours. And the incredible thing that's happened in the last few years is there's no longer a premium. We're not talking about spending extra, we're talking about saving money, especially when you consider heat pump water heaters, which you've heard mentioned in the previous sessions, and which for many homes are the single largest source of climate impact. And especially like right now, while the rebates are really large. Now, home electrification also means these other things you've heard about: your dryer and your heat pump for heating and cooling and your electric vehicles. What does it mean specifically? Well, it means changing your gas furnace or your gas boiler for your radiant system to a heat pump. It means changing your gas water heater to a heat pump water heater. It means changing your fossil gas stove to an amazing induction stove that cooks better, is more comfortable, safer for your kids and the old folks in your home. They're just amazing. And it also means lots more. We've been hearing about dryers, and how about a pool heater and even cooler? It can chill your pool. There's incredible, realistic electric fireplaces now. It's just amazing. I think it's amazing. Now, I was taught in my home where my mom lives in Berkeley. She grew up in England in World War II, and she learned that you used up everything all the way to the end. And I've lived with that teaching for a lot of years, but you know what? I recently learned that it's different when it comes to gas appliances. There is no benefit in continuing to use a gas appliance. Getting rid of it and electrifying it is better for you and our society than using it up. And don't worry, they all get electrified. Now, electrifying early, that is not waiting for an emergency, and starting to replace your gas appliances sooner is so important, partially because it's powerful climate activism. It develops the market, it pulls demand from manufacturers, and it allows advocates and policymakers and politicians to really see that, yeah, people are doing it. And then when you do it, you get to tell your friends and neighbors and colleagues that you electrified, and it was great. Now, the old-fashioned way of thinking about this is that we have to pay and sacrifice to fight climate change. I just barely remember when Jimmy Carter put on his cardigan, but we have a new reality now, which is that you get paid and you benefit by fighting climate change. It's really incredible change for all of us to be in this world. So how do you do it, and what do? We start out by making you a plan. We're going to right size all the equipment. We follow Tom's teachings. He is our guru. We apply his advice about right sizing the electrical work and the equipment in your home. We find the maximum rebates and incentives, and we keep your plan up to date as the world changes, because it is changing pretty frequently. We'll coach you and give you advice whenever you like. We're easy to reach. And when you're ready, we'll connect you with a great contractor. But we'll make sure that their bid is a fair price for the right scope, and you're getting the maximum rebates. And then we'll help you repeat that process, because probably you won't do all of your appliances all at once, and that's completely fine, until party time. That is artificial intelligence trying to make me a photo of a gas meter pinata that will hang up in your tree for your electrification party. Hopefully the real pinata will look a little better than that. Now, who are we? We're Quick Carbon. We've recently been awarded our second major prize from the US Department of Energy, which is supporting our work. We're supported also by other advisors, and we participate with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District in helping them help everybody navigate the process of getting off of fossil fuels. So where do you start? Well, we encourage you to start by starting. Get a free plan, come to our website. It's quick and easy at quickcarbon.com. There's no charge, there's no obligation. And then buy a thing. Get a heat pump, get a little induction cooktop, get clean energy from your utility, get one of those small EV chargers that Tom was mentioning, something. Start by starting the process of changing your home, your family off of fossil fuels. And then use your voice. We're not going to do this if we all do it by ourselves, but together, when we share with one another the joy of taking a hot shower in the morning and knowing that you burned no fossil fuels in the production of that shower, it just feels great. And when you share that with your friends and neighbors, they're going to start learning how great it is for them to electrify too. And together, we're going to do this. That's what I've got, folks. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Cooper. All right. So now we're entering the Q&A section of our program, and we do have a lot of Q's, and hopefully we'll get some A's here as well. So I would like to start by asking our three panelists, starting in order of which you presented, what's the key takeaway you want attendees to have from your presentation? Starting with you, Dean.
Sure, thank you. I think that, if you looked at this, as I talked a little bit about how these projects are going to roll out, and I think that the key for me is that knowing and letting the community know that we do have the expertise, we have the knowledge, we have a good modeling that we have done for this fiber project as well as for the grid mod, and it's the right thing to do. I think that it's time that we need to transition away from our gas system. And it's much easier for us than other cities, since we actually own that gas system. We can shut that gas system down, and we can actually get where we want to be by 2030. So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, for me, the key takeaway is that just by being careful about selecting devices and either making a plan or just shopping device by device to get the low power version that meets your needs, you can probably fit on your existing panel without a problem. And that helps the grid and smooths out that transition. How do we get to 2030, together while the staff is busy upsizing the grid and getting it ready for us to use it to full extent?
I think the thing I'd like folks to take away is the importance and the remarkable inexpensiveness of starting. whether it's an induction cooktop from IKEA or a heat pump water heater with huge rebates that makes it cheaper than a gas water heater. It just feels so good to start moving on this journey off of fossil fuels and onto our glorious, fully electrified future.
Great. Sorry, I missed that. My internet connection dropped, but I'm sure they were all messages. So one more question for the three of you, and then I will go to some of our attendee question. Each of you could please answer, what makes you optimistic in our ability to transition from gas to electric? Dean, what makes
you? I think I kind of talked a little bit about that, is that one of the things is we actually control that gas system. You know, we are able to look at, and we are in the planning stages right now on what it's going to take. There isn't anybody that we've been able to talk to around the country yet that has looked at transitioning away from that. And I think the biggest issue is that knowing that we have the ability to both shut off that gas system and build an outstanding system for electrification.
And I'm getting optimistic because more efficient products are coming on the market that can fit in more easily into our homes, and more services are developing that help people understand that and figure out their plans.
I'm optimistic because we no longer have to sacrifice, right? It feels like in the past it was a tough choice between having nice things and doing right by our society, our planet, our community. Electrifying is cheaper and better. And that's just a wonderful situation we find ourselves in, where we can do right by the future, do right by our pocketbooks, and do right by the planet all at the same time. No sacrifice required.
Great. All right. So our first question, we've had a number of people wondering about the fact that we're tethered to PG&E, so we can do a really good job getting ourselves electrified. But at the end of the day, we have to have PG&E transmission wires have to come in to Palo Alto. So Dean, what are your thoughts on how quickly or well PG&E is operating, and what can we do if the transmission lines go down, et cetera? You talked about that a little bit about that before.
I mean, one of the things that we've also are looking at is that how do we do some community solar? I think the thing is that we need to think about looking at doing some solar in town with battery backup portions of it, so that when the grid is most dirty at the nighttime periods, as we know, solar's off, that we would be able to turn on our own solar portion of it, pick it up. I think that PG&E, as well as other large power companies, there's just going to be an issue that they're going to have to deal with about the fossil fuel generations that they have in their areas. I'm not sure that I haven't heard anything, and I haven't seen anything from PG&E that looks like they're wanting to address that issue. I think that their main focus right now is just on fire mitigation. So I think that that's where we, as a city, have to look at ways of controlling that. And then I think also too is that just from a reliability standpoint, is we need to look for a second line coming into the city itself, because right now we only have one feed. And if anybody was here during the 2010 airplane crash, we know that we went black for most of the day at that period of time. So we've been working with them on that as well.
Okay, great. So this next question is about one of everybody's favorite topics, which is utility rate structures. So currently, the cost for those who live in all electric homes is higher than for those who live in dual fuel homes. How soon will we see those rate structures changing? And will the solution include higher electric allowances during the winter, for example? Because right now, I think there's a higher gas allowance during the winter. So I think that one's for you, Dean. Unfortunately, you're going to be getting a lot of these questions, I think.
That's fine. Actually, I brought with me Jonathan Abendscheid, who is our assistant director from Power Resources, And if I could get Jonathan to help me with this question. Are you there, Jonathan?
Louise, can you promote Jonathan to a panelist?
Says that he's, yeah, he needs to be promoted. Okay, you got it.
There we go.
Great, thank you.
Y'all see me and hear me?
Yes.
Yes, welcome.
Good evening, folks. Glad to be here. I'm Jonathan Aubenshine, an assistant director with the Utilities Department, previously the rates manager, and we're actively working on an electric cost of service study right now that that we're expecting is going to address these issues about the impact of tiered rates on electrification. In the long term, Palo Alto and others are as we install AMI, are gradually shifting towards time of use rates, which won't have that inherent penalty, and will also have the side benefit of encouraging electricity use when it's cleanest and least cost as well. So it's really the transition to those time of use rates over the next few years that we're really looking at in this cost of service study. And unfortunately, it's taking a little bit longer than we hoped because of some staffing issues, but we're making progress and we expect to be able to roll those out soon.
Great, thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Dean, or?
No, that was it.
Okay, perfect. All right, the next question is this is a real setup for you, Cooper. It's for you. Who can I get to help me right size my, help with electrifying my home? So
well, maybe these people.
I didn't make that up. Someone actually asked that.
the nice folks at Quick Carbon. But look, I've talked enough about us. We certainly do that for free every day for thousands of homes across California and many of your neighbors. But look, if you don't want advice from us, there are other organizations. There's one called bayren.org. There is switcheson.org. There are others out there that will also help you. Rewiring America has some great educational content where you can work on making your own plan. There's lots of choices. I happen to think this one's pretty good, but you should check out the ones, all of them, and see what works well for you.
Great. I always recommend that people talk to a couple of different organizations. You can ask the home efficiency genie in Palo Alto for their ideas. You can talk to QuickCom.
Thank
you can
you, yes.
Switches on. So lots of resources because you want to get a few bids so you really feel like you're spending the right amount of money and not being persuaded to buy something you don't need. So
that's right. And Hillary, can I just real quick mention your previous question about gas and electricity rates? We analyze the future rate impact of electrifying for every home that we advise, and we look at it typically over the lifespan of the equipment. When you buy a machine like a water heater or a furnace, you're not just buying it for next month and then switching back. You're committing to it for 10, 15, 20 years. And over those time frames, electric appliances are in almost all cases cheaper. And the reason is that the CPUC projects that the price of gas will go up far faster than the price of electricity in the coming years. It is true that for some homes, in some cases, your utility bills next month may be slightly higher as you electrify. But over the course of the lifespan of the equipment, electric homes should be cheaper to run.
great. That's terrific to hear. The next question is, we have what I would consider a pretty successful heat pump water heater installation program here in Palo Alto, but not everybody is buying into it and wanting to use that program. I don't know if this is for you, Dean, or for you, Jonathan, kind of what are the reasons you're hearing that people aren't adopting the heat pump water heater from the city, and what are you guys doing to address those problems?
Jonathan, do you want to start and I'll add?
Sure, I can speak to this. So thanks for bringing this up, Hillary. So our heat pump water heater program has been running for about 6 months, and we have between that and our rebate program, we have nearly 200 people who have either completed an install or are have signed contracts to move forward with an install. That's really the highest participation rate of any sustainability program that we've run in a long time. But it's not where we want to be yet. As many as 1,200 water heaters are replaced in Palo Alto every single year, just based on estimates. And we want to be capturing every single one of those. So some of the things that we've heard as our program started up, sometimes people are surprised by the costs. I think those who have moved forward with our program have felt that the program's offering a much better deal on a heat pump water heater than they've been able to get elsewhere. But when you compare it to the cost of a gas water heater, you know, especially if you're thinking about that gas water heater you installed 15 years ago, you know, before inflation hit, it can feel expensive. So that's one thing. A lot of water heaters are replaced on an emergency basis, and so that's another place where sometimes people may not be able to replace their water heater quickly. If anyone here knows somebody or is experiencing a water heater issue right now, I definitely recommend calling us up. We've been able to turn around some installs in 1 to 2 days, but more generally, there really needs to be some sort of a solution for folks who have those emergency replacements, and we're working on that right now. And then the last issue is just awareness. We need to keep getting the word out. We have an outreach plan that has been gradually ramping up, and more people are hearing about the program, but we need all the help we can in getting the word out, and forums like this are really valuable in doing that.
Great, thank you. Anything else you want to add, Dean, or should we go on to the next question?
No, I think that the only thing I want to add was what Jonathan mentioned at the very end, is that, you know, we're working on some new marketing campaign that to get the word out to the community itself, and working with them on some new rebate programs, and also offering up some refinancing through the city to help with some of those costs at that point. But making sure that, you know, we are getting the word out to the entire community is a huge help with that. So thanks for this opportunity.
Great. Okay, Tom, in case you thought I'd forgotten you, you have questions. One, when will separate large heat pump dryers become available? And two, we'll do one at a time. So that's the first one.
Right.
When will separate dryers become available?
Yeah, so there already are large 7.4 cubic foot heat pump dryers available. Let's see, my friend Josie Gaylord has one. I'm trying to remember if I think it might be Whirlpool brand, and hers uses both a small resistor and a heat pump, so it can do a variety of drying styles.
Okay, question number 2 is, what about using a larger EV charger circuit, a 30 amp breaker or larger, so I can charge during the day when there's a lot of solar on the grid versus, you know, overnight?
Yep, that's a fine thing to do if it fits on your panel, and you've got the either your own solar or you're using the grid's solar, which is arriving during the day, just normally through the way Palo Alto procures its energy.
And Tom, aren't there chargers that you can use that you could adjust, so you could do it super fast at some point or faster at some points and then slower? So an adjustable charger might be a really good solution for you to have your cake and eat it too.
Right. So you've got those that you can adjust with your app, and so then they register on the panel as the largest setting they can go to, because we need to be able to accommodate that. And then there are other adjustable models that have a number of dip switches inside, and the electrician, when they're installing it, can flip the dip switches to limit it at whatever the right power level is, so it's not overloading the panel. And so that's the type where it may be adjustable, you know, up to 40 amps or are down to 10, and that's the type I would say, oh yeah, go ahead and set it for 20, get your 39,000 miles a year. But if you want to go up from that, so long as it still works in your panel math, you can have your electrician adjust those little dip switches, internal switches that control it.
That's terrific. Thank you. All right. I know we're running out of time, so I want to make sure I get as many questions here as possible. Dean, this one is for you. There's a lot of interest in undergrounding wires, and there's also interested in upgrading the grid. What's the tension or conflict between those two projects, and how would you rate them?
Yeah, I'm sure that, again, most of you probably read the article about the undergrounding in Palo Alto. The biggest challenge right now is it's twofold. One is that trying to run the fiber and also trying to get electrification out by 2030. We are not going to have the resources that we're going to be able to do any more undergrounding. Now, we still do our small, probably about 200 home undergrounding. We are looking at, in the future though, of looking at, and this is going to have some conversations with the council as well as with the community itself. But the other roadblock in this is it's so expensive to do undergrounding. It's between right now that it's a rough estimate. We haven't really looked at it too hard yet, but looking at what our costs are from our water, gas, wastewater piping, as well as our electric projects, it looks like it could be anywhere between $600 and $900,000, $900 million to underground the entire city. Now, we have talked a little bit about that. What's that take? Probably could do maybe 1,000 homes a year, get to about 18 years down the road. But that's an extremely large amount of money to, and again, that's something that the community as well as the council is going to need to have some long conversations with. But I think it's the cost, and just the timing right now, unfortunately, is not good because of the other projects that we have in place.
Great. I have a second question for you. We all complain about
Oops. I think we froze.
I think Hillary froze, so can somebody take over?
Let's see. Are there any questions in the chat we should call out?
Well, I was just typing an answer. I'll explain it a little more. Somebody asked if there isn't one more quiet 120 volt heat pump water heater in the market, and these 120 volt heat pump water heaters are a new thing. About a couple of years ago, a bunch of us got together to cajole the industry into making that as a new product, and they've been introducing them one by one. There is one of them is a fairly loud one that uses 2 compressors. It's uncommon, but it needs its own dedicated circuit and uses 2 compressors and heats the water fast for people who want to go out and bird dog their water heater with a stopwatch to make sure it's doing its job. For the rest of us who don't mind, after we've got our needs met, who cares how long the water heater takes to reheat for tomorrow? But there are 2 great ones in the 120 volt market. Rheem has a 120 volt shared circuit model that just has a small compressor, 450 watts, and uses a mixing valve to make extra hot water to deliver lots of hot water. And now A.O. Smith has come out with their version of the same thing. It's got all that and a quieter blower and a 900 watt resistor element in it. And at 900 watts, it by code can go on shared circuits at the 15 amp circuit level. So those are the kind of the products out there that are leading the horse race, and there's others that'll be coming into the market over the next couple of years.
Great. I apologize to everyone for my terrible connections today. I don't know if it's my internet or computer, but I apologize for that. I think we have time for one more question, and I'm going to ask this one of you, Dean. We know that in the SCAP, and we know there's been a lot of conversations that at some point in the future, we're going to fully transition from gas to electric, and we're going to shut off the gas infrastructure. As the director of utilities, what would you want to have in place to provide comfort, or whatever you want to say, to the city council that it would be okay to move ahead with a date for a gas sunset?
I think, I think the thing is as we mentioned about this rebuild of this system, and we're in this pilot section right now. I think that once we get through the pilot and we're actually able to see how many customers that are going to join us with the upgrading of their system, of their internal home, and we're able to then put together a plan on how we're going to roll out the rest of the upgrades, that I would be very comfortable then at that point to set up a time frame with council that, I think the thing is that we need to really, as Jonathan kind of talked a little bit about, we really need to market. We need to get out. We've been going to HOAs to talk about this because I do hear when I'm out there in the field and with the public that there's some folks that are just not going to budge. And then what are we going to do with those individuals that, are not willing to transition over? And what do we do with the rest of the gas system then at that point? So I think, though, that to answer your question, Hillary, I think that I'd be willing to go to council once we get this pilot portion of it done, and then study it a little bit, and we'll be able then to put a date out there on how we're going to transition away from our gas system that we have in place today.
Thank you. And I think the main reason that we're interested in a gas sunset date is simply to help people make a plan to be able to electrify. It's not a threat or, oh my gosh, I'm going to turn it off, but knowing this date is coming, how do people move, not get left behind, and not experience very high gas prices as more and more people come off the grid, and then suddenly all the gas prices go up.
I agree. And I think that that's what Tom had been talking about, making a plan. How do you get there? What are you going to do? Knowing that we are going to sunset that gas system. So I think that that's, it's not going to happen next day. So there's plenty of time for folks to move on, and how the utility as a whole can also help them move in that direction.
Great. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We have a lot of unanswered questions. I will commit to getting the unanswered questions answered for people, and then we can get answers back to those of you who submitted, or as part of our send back process, we can send the slides, and we can send the answers to questions, as well as we'll have this recording. So really do appreciate everybody hanging in there. And I realize that I was the queen of technical difficulties. However, I think it's clear to say that my computer is much less reliable than the Palo Alto grid is. And with that, I leave you all and thank Dean and Cooper and Tom for being here. And thank you, Kat and Andrea, for trying to pull the questions together. That was awesome. And Louise, thank you so much for all the tech stuff. And I really want to shout out to the League of Women Voters Speakers Bureau, who allowed me to come in and propose something that was a little different. And they've been just fabulous in supporting and promoting this event. So thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening. Thanks again.
Hi, Hillary. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.